everyone, and thank you for joining us this very special evening. As we know, the theme of the hour is Living Goddesses in India, Women in Bollywood. So we thought that at least one host this evening should be a woman, and that's me. Thank you. So once again, I want to thank everyone for being here. The occasion is very special. India is entering 70 years of independence this year. And to celebrate that, the Danish Film Institute and us, that is the Embassy of India, are very, very proud to present to you 14 extremely special films that have come out recently of one of the biggest film industries in the world, and that is the Hindi film industry, better known as Bollywood. But before we begin this event, we would like to start with a short and sweet Indian tradition of lighting of a lamp, which we do when we mark a festive occasion. So may I please request our ambassador, His Excellency Mr. Rajiv Shahare, renowned Indian filmmaker Ms. Leena Yadav, and Vice President of Danish Film Institute, Jakob Bull Vestergaard, please.
Come here. Yeah.
Yay! When we say the word Bollywood, the first thing almost in everyone's mind universally is the association with dance and music. But having been an Indian living abroad for many, many years, the first go-to response of most Indians is when someone asks something about India, you see, India is a very diverse nation, comma, blah, blah, blah. It makes everything easier. I would say the same thing about Bollywood. It's not just a brand, it's a universe. So everything is as diverse as the nation it comes from. And the same can be said about dance, that you see more often in Bollywood music or Bollywood films. So we are attempting to present to you a glimpse of diversity that you may not see that often in Bollywood movies. We'll start with our first performance. We have a good lineup of 3 performances this evening, and we hope you enjoy them. The first performance is from the state of Rajasthan, which is in the west of India. Most of you will be familiar with it. It's a folk dance which is performed mostly on festivals and such by big groups of people. And the interesting part is that this genre of dance and music is performed by communities who have pretty much been born into performing art as a profession. This form of dance and music has found its way into Indian cinema very often, so you might be familiar with it. So let's welcome our first performers for the evening. That was so beautiful and so lively. Thank you, ladies. So the second performance is also a kind of folk dance. Actually, there are two from the same state, the state of Gujarat, also in the west of India. These are also performed in surprise color costumes. But the uniqueness of one of these dance forms, which is Dandiya, is that, as you saw in the first one, these guys also use sticks, which look like drumsticks but are really much cooler. And as you heard, they use these sticks as props, but they also transform into percussion artists while simultaneously being dancers. So let's welcome our second performers and welcome the spirit of Garba and Dandiya. Thank you. And with that, we come to the last performance of the evening, which, as I said in the beginning, that Bollywood is diverse and you don't get to see some dance forms, so we'll try to show you. What we are going to show you right now is something that you expect exactly when you think of Bollywood. So anyone who has ever signed up for Bollywood Zumba, Bollywood in Fitness Deco, has aspired to be exactly this. So without any further delay, we have a medley of 4 very popular songs from the past year. And let's see what our beautiful ladies have to offer. Many people don't know what the last gig was about. The last bit was actually a detergent ad that we have been listening to and watching for, I don't know, from the 70s or 80s or something. Obviously, I was not born then. But it's still going on and with full blast, and it's always about women, this ad, so I think it was really appropriate and it resonated with all of us. We love Nirma, and thank you. With that, we come to the end of the first half of this evening, and now you will move on to your second host, not me. And I hope you had a wonderful time, and thank you for being such a great audience. Now I would request everyone to move up to the auditorium where you will have the best experience you've had in a long time while watching a film. Thank you.
Hello, dear guests, Mr. Ambassador, film director Lina Yadav. A warm welcome to this opening of the Indian Film Festival here in the Cinematheque. What an excellent beginning we had just before with the dance performance downstairs. My name is Jakob Bull Vestergaard. I'm Deputy Managing Director here at the Danish Film Institute. India was one of the first countries in the world to have a female Prime Minister. And its film industry has for a long time honored its female stars, as also reflected in the title of our film festival, India's Living Goddesses. But it's only in the recent years that the position of women in Indian mainstream cinema has become less one-dimensional, both on the screen and in the industry as such. The films we have in our program testifies to this development. This is very much a discussion we recognize here in Denmark. The film that you're about to see today, Parched, has been presented at many film festivals and has won one of the main prizes at the Stockholm Film Festival. It follows 4 women in a small town of Gujarat, and is a sharp and touching portrait of gender inequality. The film is directed by Lina Yadav, who is present here today with us. The Cinematheque has presented quite a few Indian film seasons in the past, but this is the first time that we have joined forces with the Indian Embassy. So I would especially like to thank Mr. Ambassador Rajiv Shahara and Mr. Ashok Pulur for your excellent collaboration. I also wish to thank Air India and Tourism India for supporting this festival. Finally, I'm very happy to say that 3 of the Indian films will be screened not only here in Copenhagen, but also in Aarhus in the cinema Øst for Paradis. I will now give the floor to Mr. Ambassador Rajiv Shahara.
Mr. Jakob, Deputy Managing Director of the Danish Film Institute, the renowned director, Ms. Lina Yadav, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all today to this film festival. It's a very unique event that we have put together, and for that I would really like to thank the Danish Film Institute. We had started the whole concept with them, and I must say that they were the ones who carried forward the entire concept to its logical conclusion. Many, many thanks for partnering us in this wonderful venture. It is not really a mere coincidence that we have chosen the theme of women in Indian films. It coincides our 70th Independence Day anniversary. It also coincides with the UN Sustainable Development Goals on gender equalization, gender equality, and gender equity. I think these are two major things which really brings to the fore both in the Indian context as well as the global context. And therefore, I think this festival would be indeed very meaningful when we look at gender issues and women in the overall context. We have also brought into discussion goddesses of India. And if you see the Indian pantheon of gods and goddesses, you'll see that the women, the goddesses, have a very strong prime position. The goddess of power is Shakti, is Durga. The goddess of wealth is Lakshmi. The goddess of knowledge is Saraswati. So I don't think the gods have that much of power in the Indian pantheon. Hence, it is quite natural within the Indian context to put the woman on a pedestal. But somewhere we lost the script down the line. We lost the script, and we saw that things were not really working out that in terms of gender parity and giving that kind of station and status to women in Indian society. However, now in the recent context, you find this resurgence of women's movement. The NGOs have come forward. There's a whole lot of legislation which is very much women-focused, women-bound. And there are people like Leena Yadav who really brought to the fore the entire discussion, the discourse, and the changing narrative is because of the people like Leena Yadav. And I think we must commend the director for bringing out such forceful films that make people sit up and think and change your mindsets and your stereotypes and break the shackles and start thinking anew. I certainly do not want to take much time. And once again, I would like to thank Leena Yadav for coming here and being with us during the presentation of the film, and also for bringing in such lovely weather from India. Thank you so much for that. And please, with a lot of applause, welcome Leena Yadav. She would like to introduce the film. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Hello everyone. Thank you so much for coming out to see the film. Pasht is a very, very special film for me specifically, and I think I've worked with some of the best talent in front of and behind the camera on this film. It's been an extremely transformative film for all of us who worked on it, and I really hope it speaks to you. I wouldn't like to speak much now. Why don't you watch the film and then we'll talk. Thank you.
Leena just won another prize, received another prize in India today, the Lali Award for Gender Sensibility.
Sensitivity.
Yeah. Sensitivity. Sensibility. It's about the same. But you're also a script writer of this beautiful film. Could you tell us a little bit about what inspired you to this story and how you developed the script?
This film actually started in a conversation with the actress Tanishta Chatterjee, who plays the widow Rani in the film. We were finding something to do together, and she spoke about some conversations that she had with women in a village when she was shooting another film. And I found that the conversation, especially about sex, was so much more honest than we would have in the cities, and we think we're more progressive. So for me, it was a lot about judgment and how everybody wants to believe the problems are happening there. So actually it started off with me wanting to make Sex in the Village and blow the pants of Sex in the City. But once I started researching and I started traveling, and I traveled for 2 months, had lots and lots of conversations in the villages with lots of women, came back to Bombay, started writing the script. And first lesson, I realized I'm not writing their story, I'm writing my story too.
The film was supposed to take place in Gujarat, but
Yes.
it ended up in Rajasthan.
Yes.
Why was that?
So we were supposed to shoot in Gujarat just because the landscape that I was looking for in the Kutch area was something which was very visually beautiful. So in fact we kind of
This is a desert area.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in fact we created a dialect for the film which doesn't exist. We mixed Hindi and Kutchi and made a special dialect which the people are speaking in the film, which some of the characters are speaking, and the gypsies are speaking other languages. But when I started looking for a village, I was refused permission from close to 30 villages in Gujarat, because whenever I went there to see the village, the men would say, "Do you mean more women like you are going to come here for the shoot?" I would say, "Yes." They said, "No, we don't want that. Our women will get corrupt looking at you." So finally, overnight, just before the shoot, we had to shift to Rajasthan. But luckily, Rajasthan gave me the similar landscape. And so finally we shot in a village which was deserted. We had to construct 60% of the village. And we had our own set of problems there too.
Yeah. Did you have any problems with the censorship in India with this film?
No, actually the film premiered at Toronto in 2015. And I think I've been to at least 20 countries after that. And literally the first question that I was ever asked in any festival across the world was, will India get to see the film that we saw? So it was a big challenge. And at one point I didn't know whether the film will release in India, because I would not have allowed a censored version to release. But I guess we were very lucky and we got a great committee. The film finally released with the nudity being blurred, but there were no cuts in the film. And we had other problems. We had sex scenes which were leaked out before the release, and the whole film was online before the release. But as far as the censor is concerned, that was the only thing.
The film is shot in very beautiful orange, red colors, very warm and bright. And in a way, it's strange because the film is it's a dark film, at least some places, and almost a horror film. Why did you choose to use these?
Actually, I was celebrating these women. I mean, whether it's in the script or in the visual, for me, it's a celebration of the spirit of these women whose stories I'm telling. So I always knew it's going to be a very, very beautiful film, because I think these women are beautiful and I want to celebrate the spirit of survival and the sense of humor and the way they negotiate and navigate through life. The film has been shot by an extremely, extremely great cinematographer, the same person who shot the Titanic, Russell Carpenter. He's the one who shot Parched. And he also came on board because he just loved the script and the content. So initially when he read my script and he offered to shoot it, we said, we can't afford you. And he says, no, I'm going to afford you. So that's a big blessing.
And you also work with an excellent editor who worked with Alexander Payne.
Yes.
How did you get him on board?
So Kevin Tent is one of the most respected editors in Hollywood. I just thought that since this film was being able to speak to an international audience, we should get as many people internationally to come and work on it, because sometimes it's just a slight shift in the grammar which enlarges the communication. So Kevin is extremely picky about the work that he does. So I had done the first cut, which was a 3-hour long cut, which is what Kevin saw, and he absolutely loved it. And I think my collaboration with Kevin has redefined me as a scriptwriter too. It was so amazing working with him. So I think culturally each person brought their own experiences and their own things into the story, which actually in a strange way kind of enlarged the landscape of the film.
How are we to understand the ending? Is this like a women's dream, or
it's the reality.
Is it reality? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. It's nice.
If you don't respect us, we'll bond together and help each other out.
Nice. How close is it to real villages in Rajasthan?
Yeah, the stories that I got.
Characters based on the characters
Yes.
people you met during your research.
Yes. So this film is still rooted where it was. The international stories that came in only helped me understand that this has a resonance. The stories didn't become those stories. I think if a film is rooted and true to what it is, it will find, because ultimately film is a language of emotions. So if it's true to what it's saying, it will find, an audience worldwide. The film is based on very true stories, not necessarily the end, but the characters are based on. So Rani is based on a woman who was widowed at 15. And that was one of the key points in my research, where I met her and we were spending a day together. And at one point she she held my hand and said, I haven't been touched in 17 years. And I couldn't even process what that meant. So for me, touch is a very big theme, which has to be addressed in the modern day. We are forgetting to touch each other. We're getting so isolated, because I think touch is a vitamin much stronger than any pill. So yes, she's based on a true character. Lajju is based on a true character. I met this woman and we were spending the day together again. And we were all sitting and laughing, and I noticed that she had these really ugly bruises on her face. And at some point in the day, I went and asked her, I said, does your husband beat you up? And she just looked at me and she says, oh, we're having so much fun right now. Those are normal things. Let's not talk about that. And that's when I knew my film had to be an uplifting film. I'm not telling a story of depressed women. I'm telling a story of women who survive. I haven't faced any of these circumstances, but I've seen them all around me. And for me, this film was never a men versus women film, because when I really look at it, I think men are equally victims. And as a society, we need to realize that and recognize that we are spending so much time trying to heal the women, but I think men need that healing too. Because for me, Gulab and Manoj are really victims. I feel really sad. When I was writing the script also, I really felt really sad for them, because if it's difficult being a woman in that society, it's as difficult being a man in that society, So that was one. And unfortunately, I haven't traveled to Africa and Brazil with the film, but it's amazing the kind of chord it struck across the world in places that, for me, were heartbreaking, actually, in places like America, Canada, where, according to me, it's much more progressive. But, so in America, in a lot of the festivals, the conversations did start with judgment, that, oh, it's such a timely film with all the rapes happening in India. And, oh my God, does child marriage is still practiced in India? And I would say, yeah, just like teenage pregnancies happen in the US. How is it different? And then suddenly a dam would burst open. Like in Toronto, I had 40 women line up just wanting to come and tell me, and they were from all countries, just coming and telling me all kinds of truths about themselves. And it was really heartbreaking for me. And similarly in Sweden, I had women come up to me and say, I know we are from the most gender equal country in the world, but exactly the same stories happen here. So that is well, as a filmmaker, it may be heartening, but actually it's most disheartening reality. So when I started making films in India, my first 2 films were with very big stars, and all the time I was asked, as a woman, how do you feel as a director? And I felt that they're putting me in a box. So the first thing that I swore is I will never make a film about women, because that's what they want me to do. But I think something very instinctively drew me to this film. One is because I don't see women like me have real conversations on screen, and that's really bothering. In most of the films that I see in India, I can't relate to the women. I don't know where they come from and what is their makeup. Secondly, I don't see women bonding in films. Generally, women are pitted against each other, which is another big part of our conditioning. So, and as far as I'm concerned, I think I've had some of the most nurturing and enriching relationships with women who have shaped me into who I am today. So I would like to see those relationships on screen. So there was a combination of things. And then just a lot of truths that need to be spoken about unapologetically. So those were the reasons that drew me to this film.
On the previous films, you have worked with big Indian stars like Amitabh Bachchan and also Ben Kingsley. Why didn't you and Parch? Why did you choose to?
Well, I came. A lot of people in India ask me that we make these films so that we can get to work with stars. You made films with stars. Why do you want to make these films? But I think I have never charted out my career, and for me, Parched was the most satisfying film that I've ever made. When you work with very big stars, it comes with, you have to discount a lot of things. Sometimes you have to consider the audience. And in India, the stars have images which are bigger than themselves. They can't become characters. So somewhere that's very limiting, but that's a different kind of filmmaking, and it has its own strengths. It's just not meant for me. The film was very well received critically in India. But like I told you, it had leaked out online before the release. In fact, a week before, almost the distributors didn't release the film because it had leaked. But considering my first two films with such big stars, I don't think those films were seen as much as Parched. Recently I was on a recce. So many people here in the audience have told me they've seen it on YouTube. So I think it's my most watched film. Not just in India, I think worldwide. The curse and the blessing of the internet. Yeah. I had some amazing reviews, especially by male critics. In fact, the 3 bad reviews I got were from women.
It was released in the US and France before.
Yes.
Before it was premiered.
The film
in India.
is the longest running Indian film ever in France, and it was ranked the 9th best film of last year in France. It's run for 9 months in theaters. It started in 70 theaters, went on to 205 theaters, and ran for 9 months. So it's a huge hit in France. You know how it is in India, that if you make a film about a certain tribe or a certain surname, that particular community will stand up and say, we don't do this. And the whole discussion becomes about that. So I had mixed from costumes to language to tradition of at least 5-6 communities. But still, by the time the film was releasing, we had death threats from one community whose costume the widow wore. And they said, we're going to come and get you and shoot you down. And I kept asking them, there were these ranting men on the phone. I said, okay, even if it's about you, what's the problem? They would never tell me what the problem was. They just told me that they'll shoot me down for it.
Okay, Nina, thank you very much for your wonderful film. Come back with your next film. And now you're all invited for Indian refreshments, generously provided by the Indian Embassy in the bar downstairs.
Thank you so much for coming.
Somebody else can hear.